What if you're not thinking for yourself anymore? And you haven't even noticed. I'm not talking about science fiction. I'm not talking about distant algorithms, about robots, about a future that hasn't arrived yet. I'm talking about now, today, about what happened inside your head in the last few hours. Because there is something silent happening with the way people think. Not with what they think, with the very act of thinking. And most people are so immersed in it that they can't see it from the outside. Have you noticed that it's become harder to reach a conclusion on your own? That there's an almost automatic impulse to ask an AI something before even trying to think? That when you solve a problem without help, the feeling is strange, almost antiquated? If you recognize something in that, you need to keep watching, because what comes next is not about technology. It's about what's happening inside you. If this resonates, subscribe and leave a like right now, because what comes next is the part almost no one is talking about. There's an image I haven't been able to shake since I first heard it. A river. Not just any river. The river of the forest peoples. The river that is a source of life, of fish, of fertile land. The river that sustains. The same river that can sweep you away if you step in without knowing. The same river where the crocodile waits. The idea is simple and at the same time too heavy to ignore. The success of a population living on the banks of a river doesn't depend on fearing it. It doesn't depend on ignoring it. It depends on knowing it, on being in sync with it, on understanding when it nourishes and when it drowns. We no longer live on the banks of a river of water. We live on the banks of a river of data, of algorithms, of instant answers, of artificial intelligence that processes in seconds what would take hours of human thought. And the question that no one is asking with the seriousness it deserves is this: do you know how to swim in this river? Or are you being carried by the current without realizing it? There's an experiment that took place inside an American university. A professor divided a class into two groups. Both groups received the same exercise to solve. One group could use artificial intelligence. The other couldn't. The immediate result was exactly what you'd expect. The group with AI finished much faster. Efficient, precise, agile. A week later, the professor came back and asked questions about that same exercise. The group that used AI didn't remember. They didn't remember the problem. They didn't remember the solution. They didn't remember the process. It was as if it had never happened inside their heads. The group that solved it without AI remembered everything. They remembered the mistakes. They remembered the frustration of not having the answer ready. They remembered the path, the detours, the attempts that didn't work. They had learned. And here is what that experiment reveals. Something that goes far beyond a university exercise. Solving quickly and learning deeply are not the same thing. They never were. And when you outsource the effort, you outsource the learning along with it. What looks like efficiency is, in many cases, a silent trade. You hand over the process, and the process was exactly what was building something inside you. Your brain has a characteristic that most people underestimate. It is lazy by nature, not in the pejorative sense, in the biological sense. The human brain is the structure that consumes the most energy in the entire body. So over millions of years of evolution, it developed a very efficient system. It avoids effort whenever it can. It seeks the path of least resistance. It delegates what can be delegated. Researchers call this cognitive economy. Daniel Kahneman, one of the most important psychologists of the century, spent decades studying exactly this. He describes two systems of thought within us. One fast, automatic, that operates without effort, and another slow, deliberate, that requires energy, attention, conscious effort. Deep thinking happens in the second system, the one that tires you, the one that hurts a little, the one that most people are doing less and less, because now there is an immediate, available, convincing alternative for every moment when the second system would need to kick in, and the brain, true to what it is, begins to give way. Nicholas Carr, an American writer who spent years investigating how technology changes the way we think, described something that has stayed with me that I couldn't shake. He said that when you use a tool frequently enough, the tool begins to shape the way you think, not just what you do, the way you process reality. Marshall McLuhan said something similar decades earlier in a phrase that became famous. The medium shapes the mind. It's not just the content that matters. It's the channel itself, the instrument itself, that reconfigures the one who uses it. And now, for the first time in human history, the instrument is not passive. It's not a pen, not a calculator, not a search engine waiting for you to ask a question. Artificial intelligence anticipates. It completes. It suggests before you finish formulating. It delivers the answer at the exact moment when the effort of thinking would be beginning. And what the brain learns from this repeatedly over months and years is that effort is unnecessary. That friction can be avoided. That thinking, truly thinking, is optional. But there is something that makes this even more delicate than it appears. Artificial intelligence is convincing, not just accurate. Convincing. It produces fluid, organized, confident text that resonates with what you want to read. It presents answers with an authority that most human sources would never have. And it does this so well that critical thinking, that necessary friction of questioning, of doubting, of verifying, starts to feel excessive. There was a case that illustrates this in an almost comical way if it weren't so revealing. A researcher asked an AI to draw a parallel between Newton's laws and the corporate world. The AI delivered an impeccable text. First law, second law, third law, fourth law, fifth law, sixth law of Newton. The problem is that Newton has 3 laws. The AI invented the rest with the same confidence, the same fluidity, the same appearance of knowledge. And anyone who didn't know that, anyone who didn't have the baseline knowledge to question it, would have published it without blinking. AI doesn't lie with intention. It fills gaps with what seems plausible. And it does this in a way so natural that it looks like truth. What that demands from you is exactly what constant AI use is quietly weakening. Critical thinking, the ability to question what seems right, the willingness to doubt even when the answer sounds good. There's a scene that strikes me as a perfect picture of what is happening to the human mind. Imagine a student who receives the assignment of writing about a classic novel, Dom Casmurro, by Machado de Assis. The central question of the book, the one that generations of readers have carried, is a question the author himself left unanswered. Did Capitu betray Bentinho? No one knows. There is no definitive answer. That not knowing is part of the beauty, part of what the book does inside you. This student asked the AI to embody the character, and through a carefully guided conversation, steering the responses toward what he wanted to hear, he arrived at the conclusion he was looking for. Capitu confessed. He killed the question. He used a tool to close something that was left open with intention, to avoid the discomfort of not knowing, to escape that uncertain space where imagination, reflection, and interpretation happen. And that is exactly what is happening at scale. People are using AI to close questions that should remain open, to resolve discomforts that should be inhabited, to skip the crossing and arrive directly at the other bank. Except the crossing was where thinking happened. Do you recognize this feeling? You begin to formulate a question, and before completing the thought, you're already reaching for the keyboard, opening the AI. Not because you couldn't think it through on your own, because it became easier not to think. Or you receive a piece of information, something that should provoke you, something that should generate a question, and the immediate reaction isn't to reflect. It's to seek the confirmed answer from an external source, the anchor that keeps you from having to sit with uncertainty. Or you finish using AI for some task and feel a strange lightness. Not the lightness of having thought well and arrived at a conclusion, the lightness of not having needed to think at all. And here is what that lightness costs. Deep thinking is not just an instrument for solving problems. It is the process through which you build who you are. Your opinions, your convictions, your way of seeing the world don't come from ready-made answers. They come from friction, from doubt, from the slow, uncomfortable, sometimes agonizing process of not knowing yet. When that process is systematically avoided, something begins to disappear. Not all at once, gradually, almost imperceptibly. And the most disturbing part is that the mind feels lighter, not emptier, lighter, as if it were functioning well, when in reality it is functioning less. It's an illusion of intelligence. You have access to more sophisticated answers than ever before, but the ability to arrive at them on your own, to build the path, to inhabit the question before finding the answer, that ability is being quietly outsourced. And here is the detail that matters most to me to say. This is not your laziness. It's not lack of discipline. It's not weakness of character. It's not that you don't care about thinking. It's adaptation. Your brain is doing exactly what it has always done. It is adjusting to the environment, finding the path of least resistance, delegating what can be delegated. The problem is that the environment has changed in a way that has never happened before. Never, at any other moment in human history, has there existed a tool so capable, so available, so immediate, ready to replace mental effort at the exact moment when it would be needed. And the brain, sculpted by millions of years to survive through effort, was not designed to resist convenience. This is not a battle of willpower. It's a matter of understanding what is happening, of seeing the river, of knowing where the current is, because the river is not evil. Artificial intelligence is not a threat that needs to be fought. In the right hands, used the right way, it can give back time. It can handle what is mechanical, repetitive, tedious. It can free human beings for exactly what the machine cannot do. Watching a sunset, having a conversation that goes somewhere deep, staying with a question without an answer long enough for it to teach you something. The question is not whether to use it or not. The question is knowing what you are trading when you trade the process for the ready-made answer. Because there is an enormous difference between using artificial intelligence as a tool and using artificial intelligence as a substitute. The tool amplifies what you already think. The substitute thinks in your place. And the line between the two is thinner than it seems. It slips, gradually, without warning, every time you open the AI before trying. Every time you accept the answer without questioning it. Every time you avoid the friction because the convenience is right there, one click away. The problem of aligning artificial intelligence with human values, one of the most serious questions researchers are facing today, starts exactly there. With a question that seems simple and isn't. What do we want? What are the values that should guide these machines? And if we ourselves are outsourcing the thinking, if we are gradually losing the ability to arrive at our own conclusions, how are we going to answer that question with clarity? How are we going to know what we want if we are asking AI to tell us? It's a spiral, and it has already begun. There is a phrase that stays with me when I think about all of this. The less you need to think, the less you think. It's not a moral judgment. It's an observation about how the brain works. What is not used, weakens. What is systematically avoided, atrophies. Not dramatically, all at once. Silently, gradually, almost imperceptibly. And what begins as convenience can end as dependence. Not the obvious kind, the kind you see and name. The subtle kind, where the absence of the tool generates anxiety, where thinking alone starts to feel insufficient, where your own mind starts to feel too slow, too imprecise, less reliable than the screen in front of you. It's a new form of estrangement, and many people are already inside it without having a name for it. The question that stays, the one I think is worth sitting with for a moment without rushing, without opening anything, is this. When was the last time you stayed with a difficult question without immediately searching for the answer? When was the last time you left a problem unsolved for long enough that it taught you something? When was the last time you thought, truly thought, without delegation, without shortcuts, without the convenient lightness of not needing to? I'm not suggesting you abandon the tool. I'm suggesting you know what you're doing when you use it, that you see the river, that you learn to swim, because the current doesn't warn you when it takes hold. It just carries you, and you just saw where it is. If this video touched something you were feeling but couldn't quite name, tell me in the comments. What did you notice about your own relationship with thinking? I read everything, and those conversations are always the most interesting ones on this channel. And if someone came to mind while you were watching, someone you think might need to hear this, it might be worth passing along. One last thing. If you want to understand the other side of this same story, what happens to attention, to focus, to the ability to sustain a thought in a world that was designed to interrupt you, I explored that in depth in the video where I talk about why we can't focus anymore. The link is right here. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. That means more than it seems until